the world woke up to a new economic order. President Trump announced sweeping tariffs, 10% on all imports, much higher for 70 nations, including allies and rivals. Global markets plunged. Stock exchanges from Tokyo to Frankfurt saw sharp declines. Trump declared these tariffs necessary to protect American jobs, arguing the U.S. has long suffered from unfair trade. China faces tariffs up to 60%, the EU a flat 20%. This move challenges decades of free trade and the World Trade Organization. The world holds its breath as a new era begins. For 70 years, the US and Europe built a partnership rooted in democracy and open markets. Trade was a cornerstone, with tariffs steadily lowered, creating prosperity and deeply integrated economies. American companies invested in Europe. European brands became household names in the US. Disputes happened, but were managed as family squabbles, not ruptures. The alliance always took precedence over individual trade issues. That era is over. Trump's first term hinted at protectionism, but the new 20% tariff on all EU goods is a seismic shift. The EU is now treated as an economic adversary, not a partner. Shared values are sidelined. The relationship is now transactional. European leaders are shocked, forced to question US reliability. The security guarantee of NATO and the economic partnership once went hand in hand. Now, one side is shattered. Trust built over generations is broken. Europe must reconsider its economic and strategic dependencies. The era of low tariffs and easy cooperation is over. A new, uncertain, and confrontational period has begun. The US-EU relationship is fundamentally changed. The alliance that shaped the post-war world is at risk. Europe faces a future where it must stand on its own. The world watches as old certainties dissolve. The EU faces immediate, severe economic pain from the new tariffs. A 20% barrier threatens hundreds of billions in transatlantic trade. German car makers, French luxury brands, Italian manufacturers, all face crisis as their goods become unaffordable in the US. Jobs and profits are at risk. Small businesses may not survive. The ripple effects could trigger a Eurozone recession. Diplomatically, the tariffs are seen as a hostile act, imposed without warning. Brussels promises swift retaliation, preparing tariffs on American products. A tit-for-tat trade war looms, threatening more pain on both sides. The trust that once defined the relationship is gone. Europe is still recovering from pandemic and energy crises. This shock could push economies over the edge. Businesses face uncertainty, pausing investment and hiring. EU political unity is tested, as member states disagree on how to respond. The continent stands on the brink of economic and political crisis. The stakes are enormous for both sides of the Atlantic. The world's largest trading relationship is unraveling. The fallout will be felt for years to come. Tensions flare over Scotland as US tariffs become a tool of political pressure. A special clause lets Trump raise tariffs further if countries act against US interests. Scotland's new trade deal with the EU, meant to soften Brexit's blow, draws US ire. The White House threatens a 35% tariff on all UK goods if Scotland doesn't back down. London faces a dilemma: pressure Scotland or risk a trade war with the US. Edinburgh stands firm, calling the US threat unacceptable interference. The standoff inflames UK internal tensions and fuels Scottish independence arguments. Trade is now a weapon, not just economics. The Scottish case is a warning. Even small regional deals can spark global conflict. The UK's fragile unity is under strain from its closest ally. The world watches as the UK navigates this high-stakes standoff. The outcome will set a precedent for future trade disputes. The new tariff regime is unpredictable and volatile. Europe struggles to find a unified response to the US challenge. Publicly, leaders promise unity and strong retaliation, but divisions run deep. Germany, led by Chancellor Scholz, urges caution. Its export-driven economy can't afford a trade war. France's Macron demands immediate, tough retaliation, calling for strategic rebalancing. Eastern European nations, reliant on US security, hesitate to antagonize Washington. Southern countries back Macron's hardline stance. The European Commission seeks compromise, but consensus is elusive. The Franco-German divide paralyzes decision-making. The Trump administration may be counting on this division. A fractured Europe is easier to pressure than a united one. The EU's internal rifts weaken its global position. The crisis exposes Europe's vulnerability. The path forward is uncertain and fraught with risk. Macron isn't just calling for retaliation. He's pivoting France and Europe toward Asia. Strategic autonomy is now urgent. If the US isn't reliable, Europe needs new partners. France leads efforts to deepen ties with China, signing major deals in aerospace, energy, and luxury goods. Airbus expands in China. Total Energies partners with Chinese firms. Macron bets China's market can offset lost US trade. The pivot is also geopolitical. Macron wants Europe to engage China on its own terms, not just follow Washington. He hosts Xi Jinping in Paris, discussing a global strategic partnership. Macron envisions Europe as a third pole between the US and China, but risks abound. Many Europeans distrust China's intentions and fear new dependencies. Eastern EU states remain wary, still seeing the US as their security guarantor. Macron's strategy divides Europe further. The gamble: secure Europe's future, or leave it caught between superpowers. The stakes are high for Europe's global role. The outcome will shape the continent's destiny. Europe's next moves will define its place in a changing world. The US-EU split accelerates a global realignment. A Eurasian economic bloc, linking Europe, Russia, and China, moves from dream to possibility. China's Belt and Road Initiative gains new appeal as Europe seeks alternatives to US-centric trade. European nations eye new trade routes to Asia, bypassing the Atlantic. Russia, despite tensions, remains a key energy supplier and land bridge. American tariffs push Europe and Russia toward pragmatic cooperation. The old transatlantic order fades. A multipolar world emerges. A Eurasian bloc could rival US power, combining European tech, Russian resources, and Chinese manufacturing. Obstacles remain: deep mistrust and political differences. But US protectionism is a powerful unifier. The dream of a single Eurasian economic space is closer than ever. The global balance of power is shifting. The world watches as new alliances form. Europe's new priority is strategic autonomy, acting independently in defense, technology, and economics. The Trump tariffs are a wake-up call, forcing Europe to accelerate efforts to protect its interests. The EU proposes tools to counter economic coercion, including rapid sanctions and tariffs. Investment pours into key sectors: semiconductors, batteries, green tech. The goal: reduce dependence on foreign suppliers, whether in Asia or America. Security is also in focus. Calls for a European army grow louder. France and Germany lead joint defense projects, building Europe's own capabilities. Strategic autonomy is a mindset shift. Europe as a sovereign power, not a junior partner. Political unity is essential, but hard to achieve. The current crisis is the ultimate test. Can Europe forge a common path and defend its interests? The answer will define its future. The US-EU relationship stands at a crossroads. The coming months will shape the Western world for decades. One scenario: this is a temporary crisis, ending in a new trade deal after tough negotiations. Another: a lasting trade war, with escalating tariffs and deepening mistrust. The most likely: a managed rivalry, cooperation on some issues, competition on others. The deep trust of the past is gone, replaced by a transactional dynamic. Europe pursues strategic autonomy, building its own economic and military strength. The alliance may survive in name, but not in spirit. Europe faces immense challenges: maintaining unity, defending its interests, and adapting to a new world order. The Trump tariffs are a moment of truth. Will Europe emerge stronger and more unified, or fragment under pressure? The world is watching. The decisions made now will shape the 21st century.